Yesterday, DeepSeek made it permanent, $0.003625 per million tokens. How is that possible when OpenAI is losing $14 billion this year, enabling the same capability? Hold that number. The answer changes how you build. In 2020, GPT-3 cost $60 per million tokens. If you wanted a production API, you paid $60 per million tokens. That was the starting line. $60 to think. Today, the same class of frontier intelligence costs $0.003625 per million tokens on a cash hit. That is a 500-fold difference. 6 years. Same task, different century. This is not healthy deflation. It is a structural collapse that most companies have not recalculated for. Hold that second fact. The reason both things happen simultaneously is what matters, and that is Scene 4. March 2023, GPT-4 launches at $30 per million input tokens, 60 per output. You needed a funded company to run production workloads. Individual developers were priced out. Watch every frontier model from 2020 to today. Every data point is a real API that shipped to production. Every drop is the moment a company repriced what it thought it could charge you. 16 months after GPT-4, GPT-4o Mini shipped at 15 cents per million tokens, 200 times cheaper. If you built your 2024 product pricing on GPT-4 API costs, July 2024 was the moment you started overcharging your users. February 2025, OpenAI launched GPT 4.5 at $75 per million input tokens, the single most expensive large language model ever offered to developers. It was, commercially, a disaster. At CES 2025, Jensen Huang told the audience what the infrastructure data already confirmed. He was right. He was also understating the speed of what was coming. Jensen Huang told the CES 2025 audience, "The cost of intelligence is falling faster than anyone in this industry predicted." That sentence is a benchmark now. The ones who moved first read it as a structural forecast, not a sales pitch. GPT-5 launched in July 2025 at $5 per million input tokens, frontier quality at mid-tier prices. The entire pricing structure compressed in a single product launch, 300 times. Here is today's battlefield. 5 frontier models. Your choice of where to run production workloads carries a cost range spanning 2 orders of magnitude. Hold that table. There is a number in the next shot that changes the entire pricing calculation for long context workloads. On input tokens, the spread between GPT 5.5 at $5 and the cheapest frontier model is 50 to 1. But that chart does not show you the number that actually matters for long context workloads. Remember 0.003625, the cash hit price for DeepSeek V4 Pro from Shot 1. If your workload has repeating context, that is your effective inference cost, not 0.44, not 5.00. That number. 1 million tokens, 750,000 words, a full legal contract, all its amendments, the negotiation history, and your internal notes. One context window at $0.003625. I once sat across from a founder who slid her OpenAI invoice across the table. January 2024, $2,100 a month. Document analysis pipeline. She was deciding whether to raise a seed round just to cover API costs. She switched endpoints in April 2026. Same product, same pipeline. Her May invoice, $43. She told me the seed raise was no longer on the table. The constraint had simply ceased to exist. One afternoon. But here is the real question. If I just got 500 times cheaper, why is the company behind the cheapest model losing $14 billion this year, OpenAI? $20 billion in revenue, spending $3.30 for every dollar you send them. $44 billion. OpenAI's own internal projection for cumulative losses through 2028. Profitability, in their own forecast, does not arrive until 2029. They are not a software company. They are a compute subsidy. GPT-5 generated $6.1 billion in revenue from August to December 2025. Gross margin was 48% after inference costs. Then $3.6 billion in operating expenses wiped it. Net operating loss, $700 million. OpenAI CFO Sarah Friar called 2026 the year of practical adoption. Translating from carbon monohypofluoride speak, they need enterprise contracts locked in before the free tier consumes what is left of the margin. Sarah Friar told the earnings call, 2026 is the year of practical adoption, embedding AI into business operations. That is not a product vision. It is a survival pivot. When you are losing $1.35 per API tier dollar, you need lock-in. That is a structurally unsustainable cost table at scale. Strong gross margin, yes. But the research, safety, and infrastructure overhead does not compress the same way inference does. The problem is not inference cost alone. It is the full stack of operating overhead that does not deflate with hardware. Safety research, alignment teams, data licensing, regulatory compliance. These do not follow Moore's law. 25th of May 2026, yesterday, DeepSeek made official what engineers had stress-tested for weeks. The 75% discount on V4 Pro is permanent. Not a promotion, not a developer program. Here is what the permanent price cut means in actual numbers. Your cash hit cost dropped from $0.0145 to $0.003625 per million tokens. Your output cost dropped from 3.48 to 0.87. V4 Pro is a 1.6 trillion parameter mixture of experts system. For any single request, only a fraction of those parameters activate. You get frontier capability at a fraction of the compute cost. 1 million token context window. 384,000 token maximum output. At long context, V4 Pro runs at roughly 1/4 the compute of the previous generation. That is why the cut is permanent. Western analysis consistently underweights the second variable, China's domestic chip supply chain. DeepSeek is not just algorithmically efficient. It has access to hardware at costs decoupled from NVIDIA's data center margins. Liang Wenfeng built DeepSeek inside High Flyer Capital, a Chinese quantitative hedge fund. The GPU cluster was originally for algorithmic trading. Cost discipline was not a strategy, it was the founding constraint. The permanent price cut forced renegotiation across every category of enterprise AI spend. If you are in any of these verticals and you have not repriced your cost model, you are now subsidizing a premium that no longer exists. But here is the part that should bother you. At 2024 pricing, the question was whether you could afford to automate a given workflow. At 2026 pricing, the question is why you have not already. Which workflows in your product are you still rationing because of a 2024 cost assumption? 4 decisions that were marginal then are now economically obvious. Cheaper to automate than to manually triage. When you switch from GPT 5.5 to V4 Pro on a 500K page monthly workload, your first invoice will tell you more than any benchmark. $5,000 becomes $440. On cash hits, $3.62. That difference pays your next 2 engineers. The capability gap between GPT 5.5 and DeepSeek V4 Pro on benchmarks is narrow. The cost gap is not. For your specific workload, the difference in reasoning quality is likely smaller than the difference in your invoice. Here is the one thing no analyst has modeled correctly. We do not know the floor for inference costs. There is no historical model for what happens when 2 separate chip supply chains decouple and optimize independently. No floor yet. 3 things you can act on this week. Your current API bill is almost certainly above market. The gap is your bargaining power. If you signed an enterprise AI agreement in 2024 or early 2025, your locked rate is above market. You have a negotiating position you have not used yet. Use it before your renewal. These are the numbers as of today, not projections. Current rates any team can access. The collapse already happened. Cheap intelligence changes the scope of what you are allowed to build. The constraint was never your team's ambition. It was the price of the API call. Which model are you running in production right now? Drop it in the comments. The question is no longer can you afford to automate this, it is why have you not already? Next week, what happens when AI agents call these APIs autonomously with no human in the loop on cost?